job. Is good work on your part. Does anybody here have any other comments about any of these changes?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Starting with Appendix N, we added the lines conditional use permit on the title. But down in parentheses where it says subdivision, site plan review, lot line adjustment, you should also add conditional use there. Down, that was in the second paragraph. Third paragraph, same thing. Appendix O, same thing. On paragraph 2 and paragraph 3, you need to add the words conditional use permit in there. Same thing with Appendix P. On Appendix Q, where it has subdivision / lot line adjustment / site plan review, you're going to add a comment, conditional use permit. It should be a slash to keep with the consistency of all the other ones in front. Same thing with Appendix R. Should be a slash, not a comma. Because what you're making it look like is site plan review, comma, conditional use permit, where they're one document, where everything else is divided by a slash to say that this is a separate document.
So I agree with Clifton's comments on that.
Yeah. What do we have to do now to make that?
Catch all that, George?
Yeah.
He's got it all.
That makes it consistent.
No, we have to make those changes. We really can't vote on it tonight, can we?
Well, it's punctuation.
Well, it is punctuation, but that is a minor change. I don't think it does matter.
We are adding the words conditional use permit to a few of the appendixes inside the meat of the appendix.
Consistent with the title on the
Right.
page.
Yeah, that hasn't changed anything.
So one of the, does everyone have their existing the existing documents in front of them? Because not all, obviously George put in the pages into the handout that are where there were changes. And I'd like to refer to, just want to make sure that everyone is okay with that we're doing the right thing, right? So, like, specifically,
I haven't found a bit of it.
okay, I'll give you a minute to find them.
I'm trying to find my last week's documents, my last month's documents. If you have me a fresh one, that would be sure. All right.
So I'm specifically looking at Appendix B, which is page 1 of the comprehensive application form. Mine's dated revised 5/11/09. So on page 2 of that, George's changes show us adding conditional use permit onto page 2, right? And we're asking, so the process I think would be that somebody who wants to do a conditional use permit application is going to come in, they're going to get Appendix B, and they're going to start filling stuff out. So part of the conditional use permit on that we're adding on page 2 asks them to complete pages 1 through 4A of Appendix B. Right, so page 1 is basically some getting a signature from them, and then finding out what the application's about on page 1, the rest of page 1 and 2. Page 3 is a brief description of the project and who the owner of record is, and etc. What lot it is, name of the agent. Now, is that duplicated in Appendix S? I think it might be, but maybe. So do we need page 3? I guess is one question. as it reads now, we're saying you have to do page 3, but maybe that's not necessary.
So is this thing not ready, Rob?
I want to make sure everyone knows what was changed between last meeting and this meeting. And the answer to your question, I'm asking the question that you're asking, is this ready to go? Right? I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of what's being changed. I don't want to later find out, a week from now, somebody actually look at it and say, oh, you know what, this isn't right. We need to have them do one more page or one less page or something, right? That's all. I just want to make sure that this is stuff that has not been reviewed in detail by the board yet.
Okay.
But it's part of the change. But it's part of the changes.
No, it hasn't.
So,
Okay.
so this is part of. So the exercise we're going through right now is how to incorporate this new appendix into the process and into the document, right? And I want to make that. This is one of the. I looked at the other types of application we've already got. They all say fill out parts of Appendix B, the parts that make sense for that application, and not the rest, right? And that's sort of what we went with site plan review. We had all those things that it was asking for that were irrelevant, right? Sort of like to avoid creating more of that. But at the same time, make sure that when somebody does an application for a conditional use permit, we get enough information from them.
But there may be some redundancy no matter what.
There may be, and as long as everyone's okay with that, then I think we're okay, right? But we should at least review it. And I don't think it'll take very long.
Well, let's do it. I don't have a problem with redundancy, as long as it's not burdensome.
Yeah, the only way to get rid of redundancy is to give each and every type of application its own application packet. So like the site plan review would have its own application, subdivision would have its own application, conditional use permit would have its own application, and there may be overlaying stuff between each of those application packets, but that packet would have its own information. And that was part of the discussion that we had back at the last site plan review, where we had all this confusion about it, because a couple of years ago, they grouped everything together in our rules and procedures and tried to make a one-size-fit-all comprehensive application package, and it didn't work. So.
No, not for Moose Mountain, it didn't. Well, it did ultimately, but.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the selectmen's comment makes sense. When you come in to do a lot line adjustment or a site plan review, what application do you need? Okay, here.
Do we want to reconstruct the entire system to reflect that? Each one of them, each type of application is a packet for a particular request? I mean, Rob?
No.
I wouldn't think so either. That's a lot of work. And we still come up with lots of discussions. I don't see where the redundancy is a problem.
Be more succinct with the answers.
I mean, Jim.
Yeah. I see this is perfectly fine as far as giving a good description and the referral back to a base that we'll need for each application. Seems to work far better, and this gets more descriptive for the particular use. I see the format is fairly decent.
I think it does cover the bases, and I don't think it puts the town in any risk, just because we have certain redundancies here and there.
Okay, so are we okay with having page 3 of Appendix B be required for the conditional use permit?
Appendix S?
No, Appendix B is our comprehensive application form. So anyone who does any application does some parts of Appendix B, right? And so Appendix B gets modified to tell them how to do the conditional use permit with Appendix B, which includes Appendix S, right? But also some pages of Appendix B. So one of the pages that I specified was page 3. And the question, I think, is this too much redundant information, or it's standard for it. I'm not going to spend any time tracking this down. There's name and address and lot.
Yeah,
and stuff
exactly.
Like that. So we're okay with that? I think it sounds like we are.
I'm okay with it. I don't see a problem.
Another thing we might mention is that the description on page 3 is for property owner. The person applying for a conditional use permit may be a leasee. So that gives a better definition.
Maybe a
of-
what?
Maybe a leasee of the property.
Oh,
So the actual owner may be different, that gives a little bit better description as far as, the overall application. Helps the board see exactly where we stand.
well, it's number 2.
Just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, Appendix S looks great, application for conditional use permit. What's that got to do with B? Because when someone comes in, do they get B in all these appendices all at once? Or just the appendix that applies to them?
Where are you? Appendix what?
Appendices B,
All right.
comprehensive application form. Is that the form that has everything? All these pages with some of the changes in it, ahead of that, are all in there, including S.
So I think,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I can try to take a stab at answering that?
Go ahead, I'm looking at it.
So my understanding, and I could have this wrong, my understanding is that when somebody comes in to do any kind of application, we start with Appendix B, the comprehensive application, and then the page, was it page 2, starts or actually the bottom of page 1, I believe, starts asking about the project they want to do, what they're applying for, right? The bottom, where it says, please check the purpose and/or project included in this application, on the bottom of page 1 of Appendix B.
Yep.
Right, that is, and it says, the first thing you could check is pre-application design review. You flip the page, subdivision, site plan review, lot line adjustment, and now it's going to be conditional use permit, merger of existing lots, right? So that we find out at sort of the second thing in Appendix B, the comprehensive application form, is what are you applying for? Now, each of those things, whichever one you check, says what do you need to fill out. So like for lot line adjustment, it says complete pages 1 through 6 and include the following: 4 plats, a copy, 11 by 17 copy of the plat, application fees, Mylar, etc. Right? And so now we're adding, as part of these changes, a section that allows somebody to check conditional use permit, and we're saying what they need to fill out for conditional use permit.
Yep.
So it's gonna be some pages out of Appendix B, so they can actually have a check, check which thing that they're gonna do, and then Appendix S, and they gotta pay money and do a butter forms and write all that stuff, right? So,
Yep.
Okay.
so I think that depending on which thing somebody checks on pages 1 or 2 of Appendix B, then they're gonna go into some other stuff. It might all be in Appendix B, it might be, Appendix S if they're doing conditional use permit, and so on. I think that's what the process is.
That sounds clear to me now.
I'd like to also add something too, from the perspective of when the person asks for a filing. In the past, I have been instructed not to pass out with the comprehensive application form appendices C all the way through up until now S. And the reason is because the majority of all these appendices apply toward administration. For instance, Appendix C would be given out only if a person specifically requested information from the voluntary merger. Appendix D is just information that applies strictly to the administrative assistant, and to also let the board know what happens with paperwork, et cetera, et cetera. So usually I do not pass out the rest of this, but now what I would probably do in the future is any person asking for a comprehensive application packet, I would pass out B along with S, if that's what the board so chooses to do.
Well, it sounds like now it's a two-step process. They take care of B, and then they come back and they get the appendices that apply to what they've written on B.
Or George has to ask them, are you looking for a conditional use permit for the rec zone? And if yes, then he needs to give, they need Appendix S.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they don't need it for any of the other pre-existing stuff. Now, another option would be that instead of having Appendix S, we actually just add 7 more pages at the end of Appendix B. And then the addition to Appendix B says, oh, if you're doing conditional use permit, do pages 1 through 4A, and then, I don't know what it would be, 11 through 18 or something like that. right? That's another option, instead of having a new appendix, put it at the back of Appendix B, and then when somebody, and then it really is the comprehensive application form, they get Appendix B only, and that has everything they need in it.
They fill out B, and then they get the appropriate appendices after George sees what's on B.
That could work, yes. But right now, I think that, George, correct me if I'm wrong, none of the other types of applications requires a second appendix in order to fill it out.
Does not.
So if we wanted to keep consistent with that, instead of adding Appendix S, we'd add pages to Appendix B. If that makes sense. So I think it's not a big change either way. I mean, ultimately, it might be a little more, you know, the comprehensive application form might be more comprehensive if it includes 7 more pages, right? But
they don't get everything, do they, George?
No.
No. Again, I only give them Appendix B, and the rest of them, Appendix C all the way through, what is it?
R.
Yes, thank you, R, is something that.
it's for our uses,
Yes, for our uses, exactly.
right? That way we know when a letter needs to be sent to an abutter, what it should say. We've already made that decision, right? George doesn't have to think about it, he just cranks it out.
So if they check off conditional use on B, they get X.
Right. That's
Treat
right.
it like that. That's what we're doing now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's keep that.
Okay.
No, oh, no, you're absolutely right.
All right, I like simple.
No, you're absolutely right. That's my work little sense of humor.
So one of the pages in Appendix B that I didn't tell George to include, so I ended at 4A. Page 5 is titled Certification and Required Signatures. And I wasn't sure whether this made sense or not. It seemed like at the end of the day I went with it didn't make sense, because it's talking about plats and building codes and things like that. So just want to make sure everyone's okay with not asking for page 5 and those signatures on page 5 as part of a conditional use permit.
I'm gonna get there. Hold on. I don't fit so well, lefty. All right, run that again, Rob.
So we're on page 5 of Appendix B.
Okay.
So as it reads now, they would not, if they're doing conditional use permit, they're not being asked to fill out page 5. The question is that okay?
Why are we not asking to fill out number 5, page 5?
Really shouldn't be necessary to fill out 5.
Okay, so you're
Oh, I'm
Agreed.
agreeing, it's just a typographical thing on the proposed changes. We have complete pages 1 through 4A. All we have to do is 1 through 4. Just typographical.
no, it was intentional. There's a page 4A. It's
The other side.
it's the second page of the application fee schedule.
The other side of 4A.
It has
4.
signatures, signature lines.
Application signature.
You're missing page 4A? See,
I'm
do you
missing
have,
page 4A.
It's not on the back side of 4?
what version of the document do you have?
Oh, I've got the older version.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got the older version here, I don't have the 4A inserted.
You're not updated, you better get
Yeah,
updated.
you gotta get, man, you're falling way
I'm
behind.
falling way behind, I'm lost.
If we don't have page 4A, we don't get paid.
Yeah, anybody coming in for a conditional use permit should be able to get DS.
Watch out for appendix F.
Okay, so it sounded like we're okay with not having page 5. right? Because that's talking about all proposed development and construction will be in conformance with information contained in the comprehensive application package. Maybe, I mean, I don't think we're talking about development and construction. If we are, they're doing a site plan
They're doing
review,
a- Yeah, exactly.
right? And so it's gonna be covered there. That was sort of my thinking. Steve, you're so quiet.
That's how I learned.
The quiet monitor.
Now, the other, so page 6. Page 6 is in a butter notification form, and we've got one buried in Appendix S. And I didn't really discover this until I was going, sort of cross-referencing this. And rather than make the sort of major change of ripping that out of Appendix S,
Appendix S, you said?
the new
The new
appendix.
one.
New S has one.
Yeah, the new S has, I didn't validate that they're identical. In the ideal world, we'd have one abutter notification form that all applications use. Not have a different one for conditional use. So page, what page it is? Page 6 of 7 on the proposed Appendix S is an abutter notification form.
Yeah. It's identical, actually. Well, it isn't really. Yes, it is.
But
Almost.
it's formatted, at least formatted slightly differently, whether
Yeah.
I haven't validated that they're identical or not, but they should be, because
They're almost,
there's only one, there's one set of laws that govern the
Yeah.
abutter notification forms, and so,
well, there's a change in 2. There is a difference. Detailed in RSA 676:41B, and here it's 676:4 parenthesis 1, and D, and 1 and 2, and I don't know the difference between them. I would have to look that up. What is it?
Chairman, that was voted on approximately 2 planning board meetings ago, to actually change those, along with the word in that same sentence where it says notice C's. That word was also changed there.
Okay, so we got rid of that for a reason.
So page 6 has to match.
so my suggestion, if we're gonna, I'd be happiest if we change this, we remove page 6 of 7 from Appendix S. And I think that it's more updated. Page 6 of 7 in Appendix S is more updated. Actually, move that in to replace page 6 of Appendix B. And then change the proposed new thing on page, instead of asking for them to do pages 1 through 4A, tell them to do 1 through 4A and page 6.
6,
Okay.
Well, they got a good swag at it.
Does that make sense, George?
Yes, it does.
Okay. When I saw that, I was like, oh geez, I don't want to try to explain an email and make George go through this at the last minute. But I think that would be slightly cleaner.
I like it. You spent a lot of time in this.
Not that much time, but
You spent a bit.
And the reason for the changes in the RSA number is because under the new revisions of the RSA, that has changed. So the correct numbers would be D, 1, and 2, where in the old RSA, there was no 1 and 2 under D. And you went to B and it referred you to a D. And
Okay.
so when they changed it, cleaned it up a little bit, now this new one actually reflects the current RSA.
So what are we going to do with page 6? We've changed that. We're gonna have to update our books.
well, we're changing this whole document, so
Yeah.
it's going to have to get updated, right?
Yep.
So
It's a lot of work for you, George. You'll be busy. You're gonna have to do B all over again, for sure.
well, he's already done most of the. I mean, there's.
Yep.
I think that this latest thing we're talking about is he needs to add page 6 under the conditional use piece, and then move page 6 of Appendix S to be page 6 of Appendix B.
You got that, George?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and then page 7 starts getting into like subdivision plat requirement checklist. I think that's pretty clearly not required for conditional use permit.
No, but well, it all depends. Subdivision, no.
Well, I think that anything that's gonna require a plat is gonna require site plan review,
So, yes,
right? And so, it would get hit under site plan
review
review.
checklist, that's what
And,
we're,
and then page 8 is a site plan review checklist. Page 9 is a plan checklist, final plan.
yeah,
I don't think we're having any plats
nothing
and
to,
plans.
there's nothing to fill in after that.
Page 10 is continued that, I guess. Page 11 is continuing that. And then that's the end of it. So now, I think the question is, and maybe let George weigh in on what he thinks would be easiest, since he's the one who deals with people in this. Do we want to move what's in Appendix S now to be pages 12 through whatever of Appendix B?
I would say, I honestly, from my perspective, I would highly recommend that approach.
Does it make sense for you organizationally?
Yes, absolutely. I would give them one form, and there would be no question that they would not need these other appendices, which would cause confusion, I think, on their part. That's my opinion.
So would you title those like, say for just giggles and screams, like 9A, 9B, 9C, like we have with the site plan review checklist, which is 8A, 7A for the subdivision plat requirements. What's the other one? Application fee schedule, which is 4 and 4A. Would you take that section and make it 9A, 9B, 9C?
I will leave such complicated questions up to the planning board.
And I'm gonna get to that in a minute, because if you take a look at this, some of them are based that way, but then when you get over here to the final checklist, which is actually page 9, it goes 9, 10, and 11.
Yeah, I think what happened, I think it's historical, right? So to avoid having to renumber the whole universe, when we added stuff to a page and it flowed onto another page, instead of making the font smaller and smaller, somebody added A, B, C. Right?
Yeah, well, what they did was, is on this one, like the 8 and 8A, it's front and back. 9, there is nothing on the back of 9, there's nothing on the back of 10. So what they did was they made these documents two-sided and gave them the same number with just an A to go off of it.
Otherwise, they'd have to
That's how-
renumber
that's-
everything.
That's
What-
right.
well,
So
whether-
it was just to tuck it in there without having to renumber a whole lot of things. The problem
Well-
with that is there's no consistency in the way that it's numbered. And it needs to be consistent to be held up in court as a legal document.
I
So
don't
you
know,
gotta think
I don't know
about
if
that.
that's
You
true
can't
at
just
all.
tuck- You just can't tuck and number things, haphazardly. You have to have it consistent through all your documents.
I don't think that's true, Cliff. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I don't think that we should worry about that, because that's the least of our worries
Well,
in terms of numbering, because generally legal documents, even, laws, the numbering is
well,
part of the formatting, right?
it's obvious that A is 8.5. It's,
Yes.
I mean, it's not misplaced, but still in all, I mean, that's why they did it, it's pretty obvious. And the question here is, do we want to renumber the whole thing and fix it? I don't think,
Good.
huh?
We could.
I mean, how hard is it to renumber the document?
I think that should be done.
That's an administrative thing, that's not something we're going to sit here as a group and do.
No, I understand that, but I'm just thinking, and I know it's a little bit of work for George.
If you're gonna renumber it, that should be done after all the
Changes.
changes have been made and voted on, so they're in the proper place, then go through the number. It's the same thing as doing an index. You don't do an index before you write the book.
It makes sense.
The challenge isn't the administrative numbering of it; it's the cross-referencing, right? And to make, if we can set ourselves up such that when we want to add a paragraph to something, we don't have to go and redo all the cross-references. We're saving ourselves a bunch of work. Anyway, that's I go either way, but there's some advantages. There are advantages to
Leaving it the way it
to
is.
going ABC, and if we want to do that more, then maybe we should
Okay,
do
Can I
that
ask
more.
the administrative assistant?
go ahead, you go ahead.
This document, is this not in a Word file?
Yes, sir, it is.
So this